Hello, this is Richard Schneider with Antennas Direct, and we're here in beautiful Des Moines, Iowa. We're going around the country testing antennas. Now, there's 210 television markets, and we're here in number 67, Des Moines Ames television market. We're standing here in front of the state capitol of Des Moines, which is roughly 10 to 25 miles from the transmitting towers that cover this market. So we brought 3 antennas with us today. The Goliath, which is the world's most powerful UHF antenna. The ClearStream 4, which is another extremely powerful outdoor antenna. And the Eclipse 2, which is what I use at home. And that's an indoor antenna. Not quite as powerful, but I think all 3 of them are going to be able to handle this market and the distances involved. So the stations are actually on the other side of this building, and we're gonna set up over here to the side of the Capitol, and we're gonna do a channel scan and see how many channels we can actually get in the Des Moines market. One of the things that was important to us when we founded Antennas Direct 21 years ago was we wanted to build a better antenna. And the antennas that were currently on the market just weren't tuned for the frequencies on which most digital stations broadcast on. And so we've spent a lot of time, money, and effort to build the most powerful and the most efficient antennas tuned specifically for the stations on which American broadcasters operate. And it doesn't get much more American than this. It's Des Moines, Iowa here. So this will be a good test for our antennas. And I want to point out there's been a lot of advancement in the science of antenna design, not only over the last 20 years, but even the last 2 years. Our antennas have become much more efficient and much more powerful, and especially compared to a lot of the stuff you might find on Amazon with the 1,000-mile range claims. Our antennas are actually designed in America for American frequencies. They're designed with American engineers. They're not made in China. They're not tuned for Chinese frequencies. They are sold on Amazon, but they might be a little more than the 1,000-mile range antennas you might find on Amazon. So not to knock other manufacturers. Televis is a good example of someone who makes a good product besides ourselves. But we have spent a lot of time and effort to make sure that these are the most reliable and consistent antennas on the market. So here in Des Moines, I think this will be a good representative example of what you should be able to expect when using an antenna in an American city. So let's do a channel scan on these 3 antennas and see how many channels we come up with. Okay, so we have found 81 digital channels on a very, very windy day in Iowa. So we're in Des Moines. We found 81 channels on a very floppity mast using the Goliath. So I'm very impressed. 81 channels. That's big league city number of channels. So again, I want to point out, you don't have to pay for digital TV. Even in a town like Des Moines, you can get 81 channels with an antenna. So what we're going to do is we're going to try it with the ClearStream 4, and then we're going to try it with the Eclipse and see how it compares with the Goliath. Okay, we're using the ClearStream 4 in Des Moines, Iowa to do a channel scan on a very windy day. Now the Goliath moments earlier found 81 channels, and we are between 10 to 24 miles from the stations, and it looks like the ClearStream 4 found 67. So I'm gonna speculate that the Goliath found some out-of-market stations. So we got a few bonus ones with the Goliath. There are some stations that are north of here about 80 miles, and I am assuming that's what we picked up. But we're able to get reliable reception with the ClearStream 4 on 67 channels. So we started with 81, and then 67 channels, and then now we're going to do a scan with the Eclipse. Okay, we're going to try this again with an Eclipse Duo. And we've been having a lot of problems here fighting the wind, so we had to put it down further on the mast. Several tests with the Eclipse, and we got anywhere from between, just now we did 47, we had as many as 54. I think some of it just has to do with the wind. These antennas do not like to be flopping in the breeze. They like to be stable. And so I would expect the Eclipse to do maybe a little bit better, but it's an indoor antenna and it's really not meant to withstand the wind. I'm not making excuses, but it's also lower on the pole. But yeah, so anywhere between 47 to 50 some channels with the Eclipse. Hello, it's Richard. We're back at the office at Antennas Direct, and we returned from Des Moines, Iowa. So we drove from Kirksville, Missouri, due north up to Des Moines, 3-hour drive up to Des Moines, and we did a channel scan there and had quite a remarkable different result than we did in Kirksville. So in Kirksville, we did 3 channel scans. I got the same result, 9 channels every time. And Des Moines, we did 3 channel scans. And let me check my notes. We got 81 channels with the Goliath, which is the most powerful antenna on the planet. We got 67 channels with the ClearStream 4. And then we got between 54 to 47 channels with the indoor antenna, the Eclipse Duo. And it was a windy day, and the Eclipse was flopping around, which is generally not a good installation for an antenna to be moving around. But we were able to get, again, around 40 to 50 channels with the indoor antenna. So good results. Now with the Goliath, I don't believe all of those channels were from the Des Moines metro area. We likely got out-of-market stations, and I think we picked up some channels in Council Bluffs, Iowa, and maybe a few in between. So in that case, actually having a more powerful antenna would allow you to get some extra channels, and some of them might be duplicates, but it's kind of fun to watch out-of-market news if you like that kind of thing. And again, we did nothing extraordinary in terms of elevation. Again, we had it on a mast, maybe about somewhere between 12 to 13 feet above the parking lot. We camped out in front of the Iowa State Capitol, which is kind of elevated a little bit around the surrounding terrain, but we did nothing extraordinary. So if you had a multi-story building or a 2-story house and mounted an antenna on the peak of your roof, you could certainly get a few out-of-market channels in Des Moines. And Des Moines was a much larger market than Kirksville. Kirksville was number 200. Des Moines was number 67. So population-wise, quite a bit bigger. And so certainly there are going to be more channels and more services, broadcast services for that large of a market. And again, really they were consistent and reliable. So I'm kind of excited that, again, even in a Midwest town in the middle of the Midwest, not a huge metropolis, you can get 80 channels with the right antenna. So the next city we're going to go to, we're going to drive across Iowa to Omaha, Nebraska, which is about 2.5 hours east. We're going to do a channel scan in Omaha. We're going to see how many channels we get there. Wish us luck.